Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the previous episode, we get into a little frenzy at the pawn shop. Today's episode right now, we're going to hear a deduction by the great Chumps himself. If you're happy with today's episode, make sure that like button supports push the channel because this is going to be a long one. Well, Miss Lestrade, it would appear you find yourself in something of a predicament. Sis, where the blue blazes have you been, eh? Pardon? When a lady's in trouble, a true gent's supposed to be there to help. Straight away, not an hour later. Harsh. And who, pray tell, are you? Mr. Eggard I'm just gonna say Eggs Benedict because I can't say Eggard. You have, in my eyes, a veritably encyclopedic array of curiosities about your person. Nevertheless, there are two immovable conclusions I have drawn. I beg your pardon? The first is this. The true reason for your visit to this pawnbrokery today is something you have not yet revealed. And the second is this. A considerable crime is in contemplation. One you will orchestrate with intent to steal a vast sum of money. I don't know why I say ostracize. Well, Mr. Benedict, what say you do to my deductions? How? He turned to a white as hard eggs boiled. It would seem that once again, Mr. Shumps has made a flawless deduction. Just who do you think you are, sir? Ah, yes, as I hoped. That is precisely the pained expression I was looking for. So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another Sherlock Holmes logic and reasoning spectacular. The great deduction. The game is afoot. Mystery Man's aim. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. I might sneeze. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. What's that? As revealed by that which you hold in your hand, yes. What brought to you the shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement for this very shop. Yet even the most unobservant would seem realize that a man of your appearance has no need of such employ. In other words, there's a notorious motive for your actions. The cane which you unwittingly clutched to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. But what other rot? I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. The what? The end of any walking cane would be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet, the tail atlas shows the wooden tip of this stick to be utterly bare. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? I. And in your recoiling, you would inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you inevitably would like to conceal is the key to understanding the riddle, you see? There's more than two. And the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. There's more than two. What walking cane demands such a stout handle of muse, aye? But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. Not that, no, that rod. Is the broken handle of a shovel. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined his undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here? wants to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the ground beneath the premises. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. To tunnel and underneath the pawnbrokery. It's 3 right there. Great crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel? What on earth do you propose I could expect to find there? He can dance and he can fight. Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose? Say, for such fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there's an ample reason. As you are only too aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us consider what would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath this floor. The answer is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inevitably drawn. Why is there a lipstick? This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in the local area. And according to the enclosed plan of upcoming sewage works. Beneath the shops runs a sewer that joins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? By excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway. The flows in very close proximity to the great vault of financial institution opposite. What are you? In summary, sir, you devise a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us to our last and final chapter of this lurid scheme. With what plunder did the thief hope to make off from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, the picture of postcard tells us all we need to know. Postcard of the Great Exhibition? I'm afraid you quite lost me. Currently in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete the centerpiece of the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vault of the bank, on the other side of the road. Pardon? Yes, a considerable crime you have been contemplating. The theft of which sits in the vault of the bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Of course, that's top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. To steal the Great Exhibition's reserve funds. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of pawnbroking puzzle. Mr. Sholmes? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, and present a beat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness. Would you not agree? Was it true what he said about the bank over the road and what it has a bolt? Indeed, though few knows of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. Gregson told me in the strictest confidence. Not so more. But you just announced it to everyone here, rather loudly in fact. Ah! And if such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? There can be but one explanation for that. Clearly is because the man is a criminal. But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he's a criminal, as you said. Then buying a brand new shovel is to be sure the first thing he does. We're just giving the pickpocket ideas right now. We're actually giving the girl ideas since he blurted out all this stuff, to be honest. That's what he actually did. He actually blurted out a secret that the pickpocket girl, Lestrade, should not hear. Oh, my life, I assure you I'm not unscrupulous. Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. One can never be sure that someone privy to secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's out. Perhaps I'll think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Sholmes. The straight heard it, dummy. Ah, excellent idea, Mr. Naruto. An excellent idea. Ha 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 ha. Well then, Mr. Naruto, you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes, let's listen to the great deduction again and see if we can massage it into shape. The straight is now gonna steal. Very well then, let us start once more from the beginning. Of Hairlock shows magnificent logic and reason spectacular. Here we go again. First of all, we must ask ourselves what business the invention of the pawnbrokery. Can we have a fast forward option, please? You claim to have followed his pickpocket here at the street, but that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. Here's the first one, as revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, he brought to the shop in the first place is a staff recruitment flyer. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. So, by Mr. Sholmes' reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor. Yes, in an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's fair to say his motives lie elsewhere. The question is, where? What did bring Mr. Benedict here at the particular point in time? What's behind it? Yo! Stop! Joy-Con drift. Hey, yo! Hey! Yo! Let's just do that.
Take that!
Hey, yo! Oh, heck no. We're supposed to present it first and then... Okay. Okay, hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hurry it up, Chief. Because the scribble writing in the back is what? Hold on. Come on. Come on. Hold up, Chief. Hold up. I'm not done yet. Hold up. Oh, come on, move it. I know what it is, but we have to present it first. We have to examine it first. Come on now. Move it. Come on now. Wait a minute, did they even give us an option for that one? Oh, look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gino Lestrade. Height, 5'2". Green cap, scruffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel, ragged. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness! There's even a sketch of her and all. Although if she showed it to her, she fired that smoke grenade launch at his face for sure. And look, the details of this shop has been written down here too. Winnie Bake's Pawnbrokery, Baker Street, redemption deadline 15 April, which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all that information scrawled in the back of the piece of paper? Oh my god, that... We have the right idea, but we have to change the...
Take that!
It happened again! Right idea, which is the order of steps we need to do. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket Miss Lestrade and to the Mr. Winniebake's pawnbrokery here. You originally told us that you had merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thinly veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Winnie Bake's pawnbrokery and today the redemption deadline of the overcoat. So, you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. And you have gone to some lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit to Miss Lestrade. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. And then it comes to the cane, in which he says it's the bottom of the tip, but it's something else. I think it's the top of it. Whatever the initials AG means. That's what we're trying to after. What AG means, I have no idea. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. What's a ferrule? It's a metal cap commonly found on the end of the cane, Mr. Naruto. The bit that makes the nice clacking sound on the pavement? Yes, exactly. Mr. Sholmes is right. It appears to be missing on its cane. But it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't, though the gentleman certainly did recall when Mr. Sholmes identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we don't know. Hold up, hold up, hold up. What's the... Move! Joy-Con drift! Move it. Look here, Mr. Sato. There are some letters on the handle. Ah, yes, those must be initials, I think. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letters of their names. So Sherlock Sholmes will be HS, you mean? And that's right. And the initials on this came obviously... Oh, AG. Why does it feel as though that's not quite right?
Take that!
The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. A most astute observation, what do you say, Mr. Eggert Benedict? We are led to believe, sir, that your initials are EB. Yet in most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane initialing AG. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No, you're wrong. This cane isn't... You said before that you had the cane for years. So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, though you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. You recoil, sir? Is something wrong? I... And in your recoiling, you would inadvertently facilitate the answer to the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you evidently would like to conceal is the key understanding to the riddle, you see. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Let's consider the bare bones of what happened here. Miss Lestrade redeemed the fine-looking overcoat, and now a mysterious man has appeared, introducing himself with a fake name, and claiming the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Miss Lestrade from a written description, which suggests that everything else he told us is untrue. So what we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. I know it, blah blah blah. Sweetie truth. What is he saying? So if it's AG, what exactly is he saying? What is he protecting? Yo! It's ripped! Hold up. Hold up. Hold up! Can you stop for a bit? Oh, the seam on the shoulder there is coming apart. Look! So it is. Do you know, a moment ago when Mr. Benedict was surprised by seeing something that was said, I thought I heard him make a rather strange noise. It sounded like a tiny growl. But now I think it was probably the sound of the seam ripping open. If you look closely, it does seem to be a very tight fit. The sleeves are shreds to bursting, and he wouldn't have hope of fastening it at the front. If he were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart. That I'd like to see. Sorry? So how can we make Mr. Benedict run around? She's really giving that some thought.
Take that!
That split seam which you inevitably would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle, you see? Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you so baldly lied about your name and so boldly waylaid this pot pocket, whatever. This catalog of untruths has all been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from the Mr. Winnybake. But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. Conclusion? To abscond with a redeemed item. Next! Now, Mr. Benedict, let's continue. We must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman of design, a wheeze to filch some tawdry article of ponage? Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner using the watchword? Had I not been the one deposited in the first place? How could I possibly have known the relevant details, n'est-ce pas? Oh, but the watchword can be discovered. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. And your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us consider how one might have come learn to the secret watchword related to the pawn property of another. The method is revealed by the council notes of the counter. What? Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. The direction of deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers, which is pity, because it's all sounded rather exciting. Anyway, you can't deny that the mysterious gentleman didn't know the watchword. Yes, Professor. If you didn't know the word, Mr. Winnybag would never allow you to redeem the article. Or, looking at it another way, if you did know the word, Mr. Winnybag would allow you to redeem the article whether it's yours or not. So the question is, could this gentleman have found the watchwords out somehow? He saw it somehow, some way. Look at this, Mr. Sato. It appears to be a memo that Mr. Winnebag has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Winnebag must have made note of watchwords his customers give him right before their eyes. And in alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear, I don't know where to look. Who knows what other secrets might be.
Take that!
The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter to which your eyes were inevitably drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on the notelet he has to a hand, whatever. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It's increasingly apparent that you were present in this shop before your accusation against Mr. Lestrade. Miss Lestrade. I'm not sure why Mr. In all likelihood, you follow her inside and then observe her talking to Mr. Windenbake. When the diligent broker made note of a watchword as in his common practice, you observe him writing the word professor on the notelet beside the ledger. So and that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawn article from young Miss Lestrade. Master plan? Which brings us to a last final chapter of this lurid scheme. Why would you go to such lengths to redeem that particular article from this pawnbroker? Are you quite serious? For an ill-fitting overcoat hardly seemed to justify the effort, much less a worthless music box disc. But naturally, you had a very good reason to make them yours, didn't you, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture of both tells us what we need to know. No, we don't. The articles we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc. That was one of the pockets, which, according to Mr. Windenbeck, isn't even worth a penny. And yet this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why? I'm wondering perhaps we already have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruto. Could we? Really? I better have a thorough look at to the evidence we've collected so far. What's so important about this? Look at all that little bumps in the disc. They're so tiny. Yes, the protrusions are called pins, and they pluck the teeth of the comb that makes notes. And just on the edge, there's a small amount of blood. Yes, the blood of the mysterious Mr. Edgar Benedict. When Miss Lestrade tried to grab the disc from him, the pin scratched the fingers, it seems. Just like when grating some daikon radish and accidentally catch your finger. Ouch, just thinking about it hurts. It puts me off eating radish. Yo! What's this? For McGilded? Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck in the reverse side of the disc. Look. And scribbled word too. It looks like somebody named... For McGilded. McGilded? It couldn't be. But it is, Mr. Naruto. A name I shall never forget. For as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this? What is going on?
Take that!
You see, this music box tells us all we need to know. What's that on the back? It reads for McGilded. Ugh, I'm gonna sneeze. Ah, Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his lone mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusually small stature, in fact. He was precisely the right size for the overcoat that you've squeezed yourself into. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Edgar Benedict. But the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to the pawnbrokery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Ugh. To acquire an item deposited by Mr. McGilded. That's elementary, my dear Watson. Well, Mr. Magnus McGilded. Not a name I expected to hear in these circumstances. You weren't even there that day. Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid there's something very troubling on my mind. Pray tell, Mr. Sato? Well, according to what Mr. Windybeg told us earlier, today was the final day of which the code could have been redeemed, was it not? Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited. Well, today's 15 April, so 2 months ago today would have been 15 February, sir. That's right. It's all carefully recorded in my ledger. Deposit at 10:30 p.m., I see. What? But that suggests... Yes, 15 February. Especially the day which the omnibus murder took place. At 10:30 in the evening is precisely the time at which the terrible events were unfolding. Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence. You are, of course, at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose. However, he's making off with it. Yo, he's packing. I must insist you hand over the music disc now. It would be a terrible shame for you to return to your native land in a box. What do I do? There are some things a man must protect at all costs. This may well be one of those things. And again, it may not. He has a gun too! Mr. Windybank. This is my shop. I can't allow any harm to come to my customers. If that were to happen, I should have to... No, you idiot! That's not what you're supposed to do. Alright, it's enough. Inspector Gregson. Inspector? That's right, Sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our detective emergency lines. So we got here as fast as we could. Now, what's all this about, eh? Oh, praise be, you're here at last. I was moments away from forfeiting my own life in my very own establishment. You shouldn't do that, sir. It would seem you have the upper hand. I just want to look what the freaking thing says. Right, you have a lot of explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered with some petty argy-bargy. Petty? Mr. Windybank very nearly met with his hand. Yeah, by his own gun, as far as I can tell. Oh, dear. And the whole of Britain could meet with his hand if I don't get the bottom of a case I'm supposed to be working on. What? What on earth's the case, Inspector? Spare no detail, Gregson. I might have said a little too much. No matter, it's nothing to do with you lot. Anyway, sir, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station. But of course, Inspector. Ah! He's getting away! Get after him, lads! Wasn't the beat officer, too, sir? There's been a spate of thefts of pawn shops around here recently, so we fitted emergency buttons underneath the counters for brokers to let us know when there's trouble. Oh, Inspector, I was very worried for a while. Very worried indeed. Now then, Mr. Permanently in mourning? Oh, yes? I'll be taking whatever it is of McGilda down to the yard, thank you very much. So hand it over. Oh, yes, of course. No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is, mine. I'm sorry, miss, but anything belonging to McGilda has been taken in as evidence now. As evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, we have no choice but to capitulate. It's all yours, Inspector. And so we had handed Mr. McGillicuddy's desk over to Inspector Gregson, and we're summarily turfed out of the shop and onto the street. To be continued? Alright, this concludes today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, subscribe, Chronicles TV, and I'm signing out.